Hello and thank you for joining us for our news bulletin. My name is Tandy Zumara. Let's have a look at our top stories. Pope Francis encourages youth to be joyful protagonists in the church. Office of President and Cabinet calls for coordinated efforts in actualization of Malawi 2063 and MIP1. Mega farms touted as key towards eradication of hunger. And in other news, Mozambique to present new $8 billion energy transition plan at COP28. We do have the details to these stories and more, to stay with us. Following the recitation of the Angelus on Sunday, Pope Francis encouraged young people to be joyful protagonists in the life of the Church. According to the new dispensation of Pope Francis, each year on the solemnity of Christ the King of the universe, the last Sunday of the liturgical year, World Youth Day is celebrated in particular churches around the globe. Pope Francis recorded the celebration describing young people as the present and the future of the world. We have more details in this Vatican News report read by Jacqueline Saidi.
Questa è la corte del nostro re.
On Saturday morning, the Holy See Press Office announced that the Holy Father had cancelled all of his appointments due to a mild flu, and he was later admitted to Gemelli Isola Hospital in Rome to undergo precautionary testing, including a CT scan, to test for pulmonary complications, which gave a negative result. During the live transmission on Sunday, the Holy Father lamented that he was too sick to read the Angelus himself, and as such, reading the address was Monsignor Paolo Blaida, a close collaborator of the Pope. At the Angelus on Sunday, Pope Francis also noted the commemoration of the Holodomor in Ukraine, the genocide by starving of millions of Ukrainians under the Soviet Union in the 1930s, saying the lacerating wound, instead of healing, is made even more painful by the atrocities of the war that continues to make that dear people suffer. Turning his gaze towards the Holy Land, Pope Francis then thanked God for the pause in fighting between Israel and Palestine and for the release of some of the hostages and prisoners held by the warring parties. He appealed for prayers that all might be free as soon as possible and that more humanitarian aid might find its way to Gaza, while insisting on the need for dialogue. Finally, Pope Francis looked ahead to the upcoming COP28 conference on the global response to climate change beginning next week in Dubai, where he will become the first Pope to attend a COP gathering when he arrives in the United Arab Emirates on Friday, 1st December.
Secretary to the President and Cabinet Colleen Zamba says the actualization of the Malawi Vision 2063 and the first 10-year Malawi Implementation Plan MIP1 is dependent on multi-sectoral approach, hence stressing the need for coordinated efforts including the private sector, development partners, non-state actors, civil society organizations, among others. According to Zamba, some delays in the implementation of MIP1 are man-made, and inefficiencies in the implementation process has played a part apart from shocks such as pandemics as well as cyclones. She made the remarks early today in Lilongwe as she officially opened Pillar and Enabler Coordination Groups meetings to be held from Monday 27th of November to the 4th of December 2023 at Bingu International Convention Center, BICC, in Lilongwe. Charity Chilanga was there.
Making her sentiments as she officially opened the PEC's meeting, Zamba assured Malawians that President Lazarus Chakwera remains committed in the implementation of Malawi Vision 2063, asking the operationalization of the Pillar Enabler Coordination Groups to take lead so as to achieve MIP1. Zamba went on to appreciate the technical and financial support from non-state actors in the implementation of Malawi 2063 blueprint.
For us to be able to achieve our ambitions, you cannot do that alone. It is taking the work of everybody in the country. The coordination is therefore important. You need private sector to be there. You need our development partners to be there. Non-state actors, civil society, everybody, we need to be having hands on deck. Because once we coordinate, then we'll all be working together. You agree with me that if you have something, everybody is going in different direction. What are you going to achieve? Somebody is going left, somebody right, we up south, and up north. It won't make sense.
Commissioner for the National Planning Commission, May Semaso, said the meeting will help identify areas where there is a need to fast-track progress, urging all stakeholders to align their policies to the implementation of the Malawi 2063. According to Maso, the country has a lot of work to do and needs to have a proper plan to see the actions that can be taken collectively in different departments within the government, non-state actors and development partners to accelerate progress.
We can talk about mindset and one thing, as one thing that we need to actually all look at and see how we can also prioritize. You know, it's about prioritization. It's about, you cannot do everything. You cannot have everything as a priority. You just need to see which areas do we need to put more effort on.
The Malawi Vision 2063 is based on three main pillars of creating wealth, namely agricultural productivity and commercialization, industrialization and urbanization, where tourism areas are prioritized. Charity Chilanga, Luntha Television, Lilongwe.
The Malawi Electoral Commission has today handed over the polling records for the recent by-elections to the Clerk of Parliament. The by-elections were held in Mtia Ward in Zomba City on the 26th of September 2023 and in the Central Constituency on 16th of November 2023. According to Malawi Electoral Commission Commissioner Richard Chakwera, the handing over of the polling records is in accordance with the provisions of Section 120 of the Presidential, Parliamentary and Local Government Elections Act No. 10 of 2023. Brendan Wanza was there.
The records that the Commission has presented to the Clerk of Parliament for preservation include voter registers, ballot papers, records from polling stations and summaries, including the record and summary of the results. According to Meki Commissioner Richard Chagweteka, the records are kept for the purpose of preserving evidence in case there is a case of dispute lodged in the courts and there is a need to recount or refer to the records.
You need those records to be available for the purposes of providing evidence. So that's why we make sure that these records are preserved for a certain period of time, and then when there is no any electoral dispute, then we dispose them after 4 months.
Chikondi Kachinjika, who is the Deputy Clerk of Parliament responsible for corporate services, says the records will be kept safe in their custody within the specified duration for future reference in case of any dispute.
There have been such cases before where we've had to make those records available for disputes and court records, and we always make sure that all the records are there. Luckily, for all the records that we have had to produce before, we have been able to provide them in full as required.
The preservation of polling records was previously provided for under Section 119 of the repealed Parliamentary and Presidential Elections Act, which designated the Clerk of Parliament as custodian for presidential and parliamentary elections polling records for a period of 12 months. This excluded the local government elections results, which were being kept by the Chief Elections Officer for the same period before disposal. On the part of elections, Democratic Progressive Party DPP candidate Maxwell Phineas claimed victory in Mtia Ward local government by-election. In the Central constituency, Willard Gwengwe of the Malawi Congress Party MCP claimed the victory in the November 16 by-election and has been sworn in today in the Parliament chambers at a ceremony presided over by Chief Justice Rezin Mskamanda. This is Bernard Manza for Luntha News in Lilongwe.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Catherine Gotani Hara, has ordered removal of leader opposition Kondwani Nankuma's allegations that government is sending about 221 Malawians to join the Israel-Palestinian war from the Hansard for lack of supporting evidence. The House Chair brought her ruling after 5 p.m., saying the evidence she received from Nankuma does not support any of his assertions. Leader of the House, Richard Mwendobanda, has since described the ruling as the truth, saying Parliament is a house of records. Here is part of what he said.
For us, I think as government, we just happy that it is actually the truth that has prevailed. We are aware that people can debate, they have rights to talk about anything in the House, but our own standing orders are very clear that when you make such allegations, you must provide the evidence. And we knew that there was no evidence because we knew those were lies. And because they were lies, we wanted Malawians to know the truth from Musanje to Chitipa. There is no country like Malawi who would be sending young people to go and join the Israel-Palestinian war. It's not true. And therefore we are shocked with such lies. And today you have heard yourselves, and you have the copies of the Hansard, and you also have the copies of the ruling, and the copies of the evidence. There is the so-called evidence. There is nothing of that nature. This government will never do such a thing. Malawi is in harmony with everyone out there.
Nankuma was not in the House at the time of the Speaker's ruling, and efforts to get his comment proved futile, as according to his secretary and security aide, he was locked in a meeting. Moving on, the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, has said it believes that the frustrations that Malawians are currently facing, which have been worsened due to the devaluation of the kwacha, are enough to make people trust the party's leadership again, seeing as this was not the case during the party's tenure. The remarks were made on Sunday as the party's Eastern region welcomed 77 new members from United Democratic Front and UTM. Presiding over the ceremony, Regional Governor Sheikh Imran Mtenje said their goal is to coax more followers so that they can usher the party back into government. Rashida Matandika covered that.
The party leaders in the eastern region, starting from the communities to the members of parliament, believes that the frustrations that Malawians are facing, from hunger to devaluation and then the challenges of affordable input program, are enough to make people trust the Democratic Progressive Party again, because during its tenure, such issues were not around. The guest of honor at the rally that took place at Balaka Primary School ground, Sheikh Imran Ntenje, said he is sure that DPP is what people want come 2025, and that the coming of the new team from UDF and UTM is a sign that the party will take over. Responding to journalists on how their relationship with UDF will turn into after taking 76 of their members, Sheikh Ntenje said their relationship is based on election alliances and not membership.
DPP and UDF are different political parties, but what happens is that whenever there is an alliance, there is a political activity in terms of an elections or in parliament, these parties, they work together. But in as far as working together, working on the ground, these are different political parties.
One of the members who has joined the DPP after serving UDF in all his political life, Grey Mike Chimenya, said his decision is based on the party's leadership ideas, as UDF has lost direction.
The leadership was very fine. The leader of Democratic Party, Progressive Democratic Party, does not take sides or discriminate others. He is for everybody. Whether someone is from the north, from the central, talk of southern region, even eastern region. Such type of behavior, and that is leadership.
The party's authorities says their goal is to take all parliamentary seats from the 5 constituencies in the district, while Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika comes back to reign as president, saying there is no other candidate in the party who will replace him. Rashida Matandika, Luntha TV, Balaka.
You're still watching news coming to you live from Bishop Navy Media Center. Before we proceed, let's have another look at the headlines. Pope Francis encourages youth to be joyful protagonists in the church. Office of President and Cabinet calls for coordinated efforts in actualization of Malawi 2063 and MIP1. Mega farms touted as key towards eradication of hunger. And in other news, Mozambique to present new $8 billion energy transition plan at COP28. Government has used about $500 million kwacha to purchase 8 complete units of tractors, rather $500 million kwacha to purchase 8 complete units of tractors and its accessories for Mega Farms implementation. Controller of Agriculture Extension Services, Alfred Monif.
One tractor is costing about 58 million kwacha, and according to the ministry, a Rija, plow, and a harrow cost about 8 million kwacha each, which amounts to 24 million kwacha, making our calculations to amount to about 656 million kwacha for the 8 complete farm tractors units. This was disclosed at Mega Farms Support Unit in Lilongwe on Monday, when Minister of Agriculture Sam Kawale handed over 8 complete farming tractors to the unit for Mega farmers to be hiring, where he also indicated that the Chinese government has donated 4 extra tractors, and additional 4 will also be donated from the same China. He
He told journalists that all the tractors will be distributed to all the 8 Agriculture Development Divisions, ADDs, with installed Global Positioning Tracking System, GPS, which will enable the monitoring of the use of the machine from the central point.
Training 80 first business developers who we are sending across the country to help farmers to develop bankable businesses. Once they are trained, they go and train others, then they come and help to evaluate the businesses so that we can start giving funding to those who need to access funds through the Mega Farm Support Unit. The second part was where we were receiving the first 8 tractors that the Mega Farm Unit is going to be supporting. The 8 tractors have been bought using the public funds, and they're going to be sent to ADDs across the country. Now, they are going to be managed by the Mega Farm Support Unit.
The minister also officially opened a 2-day training for 80 agribusiness degree graduates from Luntha as farm business consultants who are going to be assisting at least 3,000 mega farmers with a minimum of 20 hectares to develop business plans that will be able to attract loans from banks to be used for mega farming. The training will be facilitated by Luntha lecturers, whose Vice Chancellor, Professor Emmanuel Kaunda, says this is the first time that the university has been engaged in that manner to contribute in the country's important dream.
Yeah, so the mega farms are very important because, one, you are dealing with farmers who have a bit of knowledge in terms of how to manage things, and you are dealing with a larger scale farmers where you are using what we call economies of large scale, and therefore we can be able to achieve productivity, that production per unit area which we want to achieve. That's going to be very important. It's also going to ensure that we produce adequate resources of food.
Currently, the government is said to be cultivating over 3,000 hectares of land under mega farms, and this is aside privately owned farm. Luntha has since started harvesting maize from its 110 hectares mega farms in Dwangwa. For Luntha, this is Robert Edward.
United Nations Resident Coordinator in Malawi, Rebecca Adadonto, has lauded President Lazarus Chakwera's political will in fighting gender-based violence, saying it is evident that government of Malawi is much committed bringing in laws that speak against the vice and providing support for the fight. Making the remarks on Saturday in Mzimba district during the launch of 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign, Adadonto, however, noted that there is still a lot that needs to be done to ensure that the country is winning in the fight. Here's part of what Adadonto had to say.
We need to mobilize our parliamentarians. We also need to mobilize at the district level to put together resources. We need to mobilize from private and public sector to invest in preventing gender-based violence. Everybody has to stand up and stand up publicly.
Meanwhile, Minister of Gender, Jean Muwanawauza Sendeza, says much as government is trying its best in dealing with people who are perpetrating gender-based violence through a number of laws, there is a need for collaboration among different partners to ensure that the implementation of such laws is effective. The minister also took time to speak against some financially stable women who are abusing their husbands, saying that must stop. Here is part of what she said.
Even though he doesn't have money, he doesn't have resources, but if he is your husband, if you are married to this person, you have to respect each other. Because if you don't, that's when we are seeing more men, committing suicide. So we do not want to see our men dying just because we have women that are boasting that they have money more than their husbands. So I'm calling upon all women, let's unite, let's respect our husbands so that we have stable families. Stable families who have children that will go to school, children that will be well fed. But if we don't do that, we will see our children in the streets.
A call has been made for Malawi to have transformative and well-informed leaders who can change things from the community level as the journey to achieving sustainable development goals in 2030 continues. Principal for Destiny College of Leadership and Development Studies, Bishop Andrew Mankanamba, made the remarks over the weekend when the college ushered into the ward 135 graduates. He went on to note that issues of SDGs are just being kept on papers in offices, making it hard for communities to adopt them, calling on the newly trained leaders to take up the role of changing the narrative. Rashida Matandika has filed this report.
Bishop Mankanamba said the 17 goals on sustainable development need to be adopted by individuals, but there is a high knowledge gap as most communities are not well informed about them. Hence, the students that have graduated from the college should take up the role to help communities understand their positions in achieving their agendas. He said the students are well informed, trained, and have the opportunity to showcase their innovative actions, not by counting on others to employ them, but by creating, as the information is kept on papers in high offices, and that is why Malawi is not doing well in many sectors.
Our main goal is to make sure individuals are transformed through the knowledge and application of the knowledge of the SDGs, and they are transforming their communities through the knowledge of the SDGs and implementation of the same.
Regional Director of International Christian Youth ICY Africa and Springdale College UK from Kenya, Dr. Joe Bonga, who was the guest of honor at the graduation ceremony, commended the students for showing interest in leadership, the SDGs, and becoming agents of transformative change. Dr. Bonga said the youth are much needed in issues of leadership, as it is currently the biggest challenge that Africa is facing.
I'm not saying we have bad leaders, I'm just saying we need people to be more prepared for leadership before they get into leadership, because leadership is a whole new area where wisdom is really needed. And young people think leadership is about knowledge, going to campus and getting a degree, but what our program does is our program teaches young people how to convert that knowledge into skills and how to convert those two into wisdom that can be applied in a given context, and yet still contextualized, innovated, and also being put in practice by the young people themselves.
To promote education for everyone, Destiny College will also be offering vocational trainings in collaboration with the government of Malawi through TV.
Now, in other news, Mozambique has approved an ambitious new energy transition plan until 2050, hoping to attract investments of some $80 billion to boost renewable energy capacity and increase electricity availability, the senior energy official said on Monday. President Felipe Nyusi is expected to officially present the energy strategy to international partners and potential donors on the 2nd of December during the COP28 Climate Summit in Dubai. Priority plans between next year and 2030 include adding 2,000 megawatts of new hydropower capacity by upgrading existing plants and completing the new Mpandankua hydropower project, expanding the national electricity grid, and switching to electric vehicles to reduce emissions from the transport sector. We have more details in this Al Jazeera News report read by Andrew Pound.
Special advisor to the energy minister, Pedro Simao, told Reuters news agency on Monday that they are still fine-tuning the document and hope to publicly release it later this week. The document was approved by Mozambique's Council of Ministers on November 21. The Southern African country exported its first liquefied natural gas in November 2022 and is hoping huge gas discoveries, together with its renewable energy potential, will propel economic growth and help lift millions out of poverty. Ahead of COP28, African countries are gearing up to ask for improved climate financing for renewable energy projects in a continent seen as lagging behind in preparing for a greener future, even though it contributes the least to global emissions. Comprising about 17% of the world's population, Africa contributes just 4% of global carbon emissions at 1.45 billion tons. But it has been home to some of the worst droughts and floods of recent times, including Cyclone Freddy, which killed more than 500 people and displaced thousands in Mozambique and Malawi earlier this year.
That Al Jazeera News report read by Andrew Pound also brings us to the end of what we had for you in this edition of our news bulletin. But before we leave, here's a reminder of our top stories. Pope Francis encourages youth to be joyful protagonists in the church. Office of President and Cabinet calls for coordinated efforts in actualization of Malawi 2063 and MIP1. Mega farms touted as key towards eradication of hunger. And in other news, Mozambique to present new $8 billion energy transition plan at COP28. My name is Tandi Wemzumara. Thank you for keeping me company and goodbye for now.